Cowboys had their second of their 2 joint practices today, and they did not have CeeDee Lamb, nor did they have Noah Brown playing. CeeDee Lamb dealing with a cut toe that required stitches. Meanwhile, Noah Brown dealing with a toe injury as well. Jeremy Sprinkles held out of practice to tight end for the Cowboys. He's dealing with an Achilles injury as well.
Ooh, that's not good for him.
So, yeah, your number 1 wide receiver today for your Dallas Cowboys.
He was on the sideline, like, doing certain drills, and we've been reassured, that's the word I'm going to use here, that it's not a significant injury, that they have, feelings that he'll be back next week is what Bobby said, correct?
Yes, for both CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown.
Who are basically your top 2 wide receivers right now if you don't consider the other dudes who are already injured. In Michael Gallup and James Washington.
But if we do, the number 1 wide receiver today was your 3rd round selection out of South Alabama, Jalen Tolbert. Yeah, needless to say, wide receiver room struggled a little bit. Dennis Houston, though, did have a nice play. Apparently had a Hail Mary to end today's practice on the offense.
All right, so there's,
the Cowboys.
Before we get into like this question in earnest, can I ask you another question?
Sure.
That's entirely not the point. I've been asking before we got into camp, because, we got to talk about things. We got to ask questions. Before we got into camp, I was like, who's going to be this year's Maurice Kennedy? Right? Like, the dude who ends up lighting up camp, and then we get to regular season and we're like, oh, that was a camp thing.
Like, where'd he go?
And right now it feels like there's 2 candidates, Dennis Houston and Deron Bland. And I'm like, is it possible that both of them Maurice Kennedy, or like, are both of them dudes who are just going to end up being nice compliments to your team and helping in the, in the pockets where they get opportunities? Like, do you have an opinion on if either one of them are the Maurice Kennedy? And I also should apologize to Maurice Kennedy, because I don't mean to make your name a verb like this or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? But that's the reference point that I have here.
I think Deron Bland's going to make the team and be a part of this secondary, a big part of the secondary, given what they need in that secondary. The wide receiver room, because who was TJ Vasher had one of the plays of camp so far with the one-handed grab.
He seems to have fallen out of favor, right? Like,
exactly.
As we've gotten to practicing with other teams, I ain't seen the TJ Vasher highlights.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's been quiet on that front.
TJ Vasher scuttlebutt. You know what I mean? I've heard the Dennis Houston.
Yeah, Dennis Houston, as I mentioned, had the nice play today. He's someone that's continuing to get opportunities. What he does against the Chargers on Saturday will go another step toward figuring out if he's going to be a part of this roster. Kevontae Turpin, who looks like he's going to make this roster as being, one of the return men, maybe a gadget guy, just certain things in the offense. But other than that, and I think one of the encouraging signs you saw today was Michael Gallup getting on the field and actually running routes for the first time.
Yeah, on air.
Yes.
Don't nobody get too scared or nothing. Like, but after practice, he got out there running routes on air, which makes me feel, I don't know. I was going to say makes me feel better. I still have questions as to like how early, because again, they've played it kind of coy, they being the Cowboys, on when he ultimately ends up being back playing for this team. Yeah. And they have been very hesitant to set a timeline. So in my mind,
it's been 8.5 months now since the injury, because he injured it in early January, which obviously we'll be getting to here in a little while.
Yeah.
So it's been 8.5 months now since or almost, I guess, eight months since he's injured, the ACL.
And he said in pretty definite terms, he ruled out week 1. So I'm like, when he did that, I was like, well, okay, are we talking 4 weeks here?
Which has honestly been my anticipation, that I've gotten my mind wrapped around the idea that he will not play the first month of the year.
But if he's out here running routes right now,
that's a great sign. That,
you know what I mean? Like, could it be 2 weeks?
I mean, that's ideally what you hope, right? That this timeline is sped up for him, and he's going to be able to be healthy by the time you get to the first couple of weeks of the year. But yeah, I've mentally prepared myself for him to not play for the first month of the year. And if that's the case, and obviously you're going to be running out CeeDee Lamb as your number 1, you're still going to be having CeeDee Lamb, no James Washington, obviously. So your number 2 right now, based on what you have, is going to be Jalen Tolbert. So there is a question as to whether or not you should go ahead and bring someone in. And what's available right now is Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not even going to mention Antonio Brown, even though I just did. Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, John Ross, Adam Humphries. Those are the kinds of names that you're talking about here. Odell Beckham Jr. obviously.
How old is Adam Humphries?
I don't even know.
That's because he played for Washington last year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when he's 29. I don't know if that makes me happy or sad. He's one of those dudes that he seems to do solid stuff. And I'm almost feel like, what are you looking for from a guy when you go and sign him? Because that also matters here.
So the thing is, if you're going to bring someone in off the street, you're looking for a guy to, at least for the first 4 weeks, in my mind, stabilize the position. Because yes, while CeeDee Lamb's going to be your number one, you're going to be asking a lot from your third-round rookie wide receiver in Jalen Tolbert to be a productive member of this offense fairly quickly. And at times, he's had an up and down camp, has Tolbert. So you're banking on him getting better and better as the preseason goes on to have that confidence that on week one, he's going to be able to step in and be a contributor to this offense. If you feel like you want to have some more stability in the room, then that's where I think you go down the veteran wide receiver route to bring in someone to help stabilize that room. And veterans like a Will Fuller, like a T.Y. Hilton, those are the kinds of names. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is out there. But again, it's the same issue you have with Michael Gallup in this case.
Yeah.
Coming off of a torn ACL, how quickly is he going to be ready to play football
he
for your
tore
team?
his ACL significantly later.
Yeah, in February in the Super Bowl. So the Cowboys are in a little bit of, an issue right now when it comes to obviously their depth, but more so how to address it given how important that position is going to be to this offense and it being successful.
Early on in the season, mind
yes.
you. It's not like hey, you can kind of work your way into this. You're dropped into the deep end of the pool early on.
Against two very good defenses.
Yeah, and you need to be able to do things offensively. So, it's going to be a lot to ask of the young wide receivers that you have in this core to get out here and produce. So, I think that's why in theory, I would like them to sign somebody. I don't know if there's anybody that particularly inspires me off the jump. I guess Will Fuller is one of those because a lot of the concerns that people have with some of these players, right? There's some of these players that you have concerns of. Are they washed? Do they have anything? Shout out to my guy, Eugene. I still love you, right? But then there's certain guys that you go, well, he's not going to stay healthy. I don't need him to stay healthy for 17. I need him to stay healthy for 3, 4. And Will Fuller starts to be in that range of, can you be healthy for 4 for me?
And that's why, from the 214, don't front, guys. Turpin is the number 2 wide receiver on the roster. No.
Hope not. And that's not shade at Turpin. I don't like.
If Turpin's your number 2 wide receiver, you're in trouble. Not going to front with you. You're in trouble. Jalen Tolbert right now, based on what you have in your wide receiver room, is your number 2. It goes CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert. He's got to produce. Yes, there is familiarity with, Cole Beasley and Dak Prescott. I don't see them looking for another slot guy, especially a smaller slot guy in this offense. Emmanuel Sanders, 35 years old. And Jerry has talked about the idea that, look, we want these young guys to earn spots on this team to be able to get the reps in important situations. So based on what Jerry has said, the way that they haven't addressed the room already, they're wanting these young guys to step up and maybe be able to be productive members in this offense.
Which is why it seems like this is still not going to, despite all the injuries that seem to be racking up, this is still not going to be the time where the team goes and signs somebody, even though it's starting to feel like it should be. It's starting to feel like you should have people in here that at least can give game, those type of things.
Or at least bring more confidence to the wide receiver room, because I don't know about you, my confidence in the wide receiver room is one of the lowest that I have on this entire football team right now. And that is a discouraging thought, knowing that your quarterback, you're asking to do more with less, and the amount of pressure that you're putting on him to be able to elevate not only his own play for the entirety of the offense, but specifically to the wide receiver room. That is a major concern right now, that maybe once the 53-man rosters are finalized, the final decision is made on Michael Gallup on whether or not he's going to be put on, a short-term IR with the designation to return, how those things shake out. But right now, yeah, that's one of my most, if not the least confident I have in any position group on this football team is in the wide receiver room.
So real quick before we go, in this Chargers game, understanding that we know Dak Prescott's not going to play.
Sure.
We know like the major players aren't going to play. Is there anything that you're looking forward to? Because I know there's one thing in particular I'm really looking forward to seeing.
What's that?
I want to see Will Grier.
The backup quarterback situation.
Yeah, I want to see that. And I understand, like, if you're starting quarterback, Dak Prescott's not playing, you're probably out of this anyways. I just would love to see what Will Grier's mentality of a player, like a dude who wants to rip it, you know what I mean, get out here and just toss the ball around, who's not afraid of that, and a dude who probably has a little more velocity on his passes. I want to see what he can do in that game situation and give some of these younger wide receivers better opportunities to get good footballs in game situation. I think that will help you see a little bit better what your wide receivers are looking like deeper into that wide receiver room.
Two things. One, discipline, and two, the Tyler Smith experiment.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, the discipline's got to get cleaned up in against the Chargers. And two, Tyler Smith, can he build upon the game that he had in Denver, clean up his own couple of holding penalties that he had against Denver? Because I still don't understand why we have not declared Tyler Smith as the starting left guard for this team.
He's got to earn it, Kevin.
Look, man.
He's got to earn it.
I guess so.
First rounders don't get handed nothing around these parts. Except when they do.